So I want to tell you a story that honestly feels like a system error in real life. It's the story of Alberto Hill, a cybersecurity expert whose entire world, his digital life, just slammed head-on into a justice system that was stuck in the past. He calls it a glitch, a single, catastrophic glitch in his own life.
Literally overnight, Alberto became this infamous figure in his home country, Uruguay. The media painted him as some kind of dangerous cybercriminal mastermind. But the actual reason he was arrested, and the so-called evidence the police showed off on TV, well, that's where this whole thing just goes from serious to completely bizarre.
And I'm not kidding. Get this. This was the actual hacker gear that they built their case on. The police report actually labeled a simple office paper cutter a guillotine. They took his pet cactus, Walter, as evidence. A V for Vendetta mask was treated like it was some kind of terrorist artifact. I mean, from the very beginning, you can just tell this was a massive, massive misunderstanding.
So who is this guy, really? The man behind the guillotine and the apparently very dangerous cactus? Well, the truth about who Alberto Hill was professionally, it couldn't be more different from the character the media was creating.
Yeah, this is not the resume of a criminal. Alberto was a top-tier security pro, a certified ethical hacker who, get this, worked for the Uruguayan government for 4 years, helping to secure their systems. He'd even worked with Interpol. This was the guy you called to prevent a hack, not the one you arrest for causing one. And here's the absolute heart of the injustice. Back in 2015, Alberto finds a vulnerability so simple it's almost funny. The login for a major medical website was literally admin, and he does the right thing. He reports it. 2 years go by, someone else hacks that same company, and after a 7-month investigation, who do the police arrest? Alberto, the one person who tried to stop it from ever happening. Okay, so this is the moment the story really shifts. It stops being about a crime and starts being about a system that was so unprepared, so ignorant about technology, that it led to absolutely devastating consequences for the one person caught in the middle.
So during the interrogation, the pressure just became immense. Alberto says the police were threatening to put his mother and his girlfriend through the same traumatic raids he just experienced. So, thinking he could easily prove his innocence later in a court that, understood technology, he made a choice to protect them. He falsely confessed, thinking the digital trail would eventually set him free.
Now, to understand how his life savings literally evaporated, we need to talk about the 2 ways he stored his crypto. His ledger device? That was like his personal safe at home, only he had the key. His account on an exchange, though, that was more like a bank vault, where a company holds the keys for you. And that difference? Well, it turned out to be absolutely catastrophic.
And here's the disaster step by step. First, the police took his ledger, his personal safe. They tried to guess the PIN, and after 3 wrong tries, the device did exactly what it's designed to do for security. It wiped itself. The keys to his assets were permanently gone. Then they took his phone, which locked him out of his bank vault on the WEX exchange. And a year later, that exchange collapsed, and he was completely powerless to get his money out.
So what's the final price tag on this nightmare? $500,000. That's how much Alberto sued the state of Uruguay for. This wasn't just about clearing his name anymore. This was a fight for accountability, for the sheer incompetence that cost him everything. One legal analysis just hit the nail on the head. It called the case the collision between an archaic justice system and the frontier of digital technology. And that's really it, isn't it? Alberto's story is this giant, flashing red light for a problem that's happening everywhere. Our laws were built for an analog world, and they are breaking apart in our digital one. But, and this is the incredible part of the story, from the absolute bottom, from losing his career, his relationship, his freedom, Alberto created something brand new. He figured out a way to turn all of that trauma into a powerful philosophy. And you're not going to believe it, but it all started with that cactus. The absurd, painful memory of the police confiscating his little plant, Walter, became what he calls his Genesis block. In crypto, that's the very first block on the chain. For Alberto, Walter became the anchor, the starting point for making any sense out of the senseless. So, to get what he came up with, you first need to know this one core crypto idea, proof of work. Basically, it's the idea that value is proven by doing a ton of work. Computers solve these ridiculously hard math problems, and that effort is what validates a transaction. It's all about computational effort. Alberto took that concept and applied it to us, to people. He calls his idea proof of love.
And his philosophy is that the real strength of a human connection isn't proven in the good times. It's validated by surviving trauma together. The shared vulnerability, the emotional resilience it takes to get through the fire, that, for him, is the real proof.
So how do you possibly rebuild a life after all that? Well, for Alberto, it meant taking his story, his expertise, and his new philosophy and finding a whole new stage, transforming himself from a silenced prisoner into a voice heard around the world.
And the way he did it is just staggering. Since X Spaces really became a thing in 2021, he has hosted nearly 2,000 of them. That is more than one every single day for years on end.
And he's not just talking at people. He's been a speaker in over 3,000 other spaces. This isn't just about putting out content. This is a relentless drive to be a part of the conversation.
And you can see his whole strategy right here in the numbers. Look at that. His biggest activity isn't hosting his own show. It's jumping into other conversations. He is woven into the very fabric of that community, building it from the inside.
And this isn't just random activity. He has focused all this incredible energy into building a global community around the very topics that upended his entire life: digital rights, security, and transparency. He essentially turned his own personal system glitch into a global classroom.
And that really leaves us all with the huge question that his story just forces us to ask. Alberto's case is a profound warning. As our technology leaps further and further ahead of our laws, how do we make sure our justice system actually delivers justice and doesn't just create more glitches? It's a question that honestly affects every single one of us on this new digital frontier.